Merry Christmas. Feliz Navidad. Buona tarde. Felicum Natatam Cresti. Merry Kurai Sonamasu. Welcome to a very special episode of Velez's Anecdotal Tales. I am your host, Yamanetto. Coming back home from the North Pole, which gave me a little indigestion. Anyway, the trip was long and very cold, but it was all worth it because I did promise a very special story for the holidays. So without any further delay, let's get started. Shall we? Christmas has been one of the biggest holiday events in the world. Many biblical stories have told the birth of Jesus Christ, Son of God. Both the birth and death of Christ are part of the reasons we celebrate, as well as being around those we care about so much. But there is a secret story that also explains why the holiday is celebrated. And it begins with two brothers. In a large peninsula known as Asia Minor, within the late 3rd century, there lived a noble and wealthy couple named Theophans and Nona. The two were greatly respected for their devotion to God, that they prayed for a son. Within the late winter, they were granted twin sons. The night of their birth, their home that they lived in caught fire mysteriously. Nona rushed to rescue the newborns, but Theophans rushed his wife out of the house and returned inside to save them himself. When he got to the nursery room, he spotted the crib destroyed, but found one of the infants. As soon as he picked him up, he searched for a few moments for his second baby before the fire began to worsen, forcing him to leave. Once outside, Nona rushed to hold her baby, but noticed that the second child was not present, assuming that he had perished in the fire. Theophans prayed for the lost baby's soul and vowed to dedicate their living son to God, and named him Nicholas. As the years went by, Nicholas had grown to love and respect the Lord enough to help those in need, even if it meant sacrificing portions of his fortune and possessions to provide for those in need. In truth, Nicholas only did it through secrecy out of respect for his religious morals and the privacy of those he helped. One day, a semi-old couple traveled from a far land to meet with Nicholas and urged him to accompany them to their homeland to bless the orphanage they and their family owned for centuries. They explained that the orphans were behaving very mischievously and that they were in danger of going to hell on the night of the winter solstice. Nicholas asked, "Why the winter solstice specifically?" The man explained that their country was a place where a demon-like creature appears every year to take away children that became mischief. Nicholas tried to decline with regret due to him not being properly ordained at the time, but the couple begged for his help anyway with much desperation. They explained that many other priests and followers of God have tried when the demon came after other children from their country, but their efforts led to their own deaths. They begged Nicholas one last time for his help, because it was not just the orphans that were in danger, but their own children as well. Despite his current status, as well as his self-doubt, he eventually gave in and agreed to help. While following the couple by horse, he remembered everything he had learned all his life about the devotion to God and the heavens. It took more than a day to ride, but Nicholas realized that he was arriving in Germany. However, once his horse stepped onto the German lands, Nicholas immediately felt a devilish aura all around him, and it caused some discomfort for his horse. After successfully calming it down, Nicholas followed the family to the orphanage that needed his help. Upon arrival, Nicholas felt that same aura to be strongest from within the walls of the house. Nicholas turned to the couple and said, "I understand your troubles now more than ever. I will help any way I can." The couple thanked him for his help and showed him inside the orphanage house. Once inside, he observed so many misbehaved and mischievous children all around him. Feeling astounded by all he witnessed, he turned to the couple and asked, "When did this start?" The wife answered, "It began as soon as all of the trees in our lands lost their leaves within nighttime. Beforehand, the children were all lovely and sweethearted." After hearing this, Nicholas replied, "Then nighttime is when I will begin. Midnight is the winter solstice, and the evil presence will surely make itself known at that time." Setting his goals to motion, he asked the couple to have everyone bring the orphans into the main halls for them to sleep for the night so that they could all be watched at the same time. During the wait, all Nicholas could do was read his Bible, but then a strange vision flashed in his mind. A fire that happened in a house with 2 infants inside. He shook his head fast and refocused on his Bible readings until the clock struck midnight. Nicholas shut the book closed and looked around to see if any dark presence would appear in the room. Moments later, nothing happened. But then, Nicholas heard a low growl that crept into the room, and he saw a strange-looking creature that appeared to be a humanoid demonic goat making its way over. Its presence and growl woke up the children, putting all of them in a state of fear. It said to them with a striking fear in their hearts,
"You fledglings have been naughty, very naughty. For your ill behavior, you shall now become sons of hell."
Before it stepped closer, Nicholas drew out a cross and held it in front of the beast, forcing it to stop. "You are like the demons of old, which means you have no power here," said Nicholas. "For the power of Christ compels you. You will not take any of these children. Now, be gone, demon!" The beast hissed with disgust, but then looked at Nicholas and chuckled maniacally. Nicholas was confused by this until the creature replied,
"So, you are alive. How, oh how, could I not have guessed this? Hello, Nicholas. We meet again."
Nicholas was even more confused as he lowered the cross slowly. He replied, "Again? How do you know who I am?" The creature chuckled and replied,
"Come now, do you not recognize one of your own?"
The creature's form began to change and took on the appearance of a human who looked exactly like Nicholas, shocking the children and the caretakers who witnessed this. This did not, however, change Nicholas's facial expression. Nicholas questioned, "You think taking on my form would back me down, demon?" Creature laughed at Nicholas's response and answered, "You still have not figured it out? It is I, your twin brother, the one that was left in the fire of the house we were both born in. If you cannot believe me, then see for yourself." The creature's eyes glowed, revealing to Nicholas a piece of memory he had forgotten: the fire that he was rescued by his father the night of his birth. He saw in the vision that his father saved him but failed to find the other baby. During the next part of the vision, the creature replied, "The fire began because of hell's vengeful hatred towards our father. I could have died, but the hands of hell gave me a new purpose instead. They morphed me physically, mentally, and mystically to where I am no longer human. I am now a creature who feasts on the bodies of mischief children around the world and takes their souls to the bowels of hell, where they become servants to the dark lord, the one who gave me a name, one that everyone would one day fear. I am Krampus." The vision ended, and all Nicholas could do was breathe very heavily, almost as if he ran 5 miles to get away from man-eating wolves. Krampus, as the name was stated, retook his demonic form and said to Nicholas, "Now do you see? We are blood, except you follow the path of righteousness, while I follow the path of death. However, it does not have to be this way. Come, join me. We could be together as we should have long ago. We can accomplish anything in the world. You could become the new god amongst humankind." Nicholas stood silent, staring at his wicked brother, and replied, "I refuse. I am sorry for what happened all those years ago, my brother, but I will not turn away from my bond with God, even if it means standing against a member of my own family." Nicholas rose his cross towards Krampus's direction yet again, but this time it had no effect on him, and Krampus rushed up to Nicholas to attack him. During such, Nicholas attempted a prayer, but nothing was working, especially when he was stabbed by Krampus's claws, severely injuring him. This scared all the children and the adults that were watching. Nicholas started breathing heavily and nervously at the same time, while tolerating the pain he was inflicted. At that moment of desperation, Nicholas stabbed the cross into the wrist that pierced into his chest, causing a glow between the brothers that brightened the entire house. Moments later, the couple found Nicholas lying on the ground with his wounds closed and healed, but there was no sign of Krampus. To them, it was a relief because all of the children, who seemed less mischievous, were alive and well. By morning, Nicholas finally awoke and saw that Krampus was gone. It took him a bit, but he began to grasp the events that happened. When the glow occurred, words of God sounded off between the two. Nicholas seemed as if he was glowing with an unusual aura, while Krampus was fading away into the ground. Before doing so, he shouted with a roar,
You will never keep me away! I am immortal! I will keep coming back! Even if I have to travel around many corners of the world, where you will not stop me!
After his final words, Krampus completely vanished, and the rest of the events of the night prior occurred. After remembering what happened with Krampus, Nicholas thanked the couple for tending to his injuries. They thanked him for his help to save the children by destroying Krampus. Nicholas pessimistically replied, "I did not destroy him. He was simply sent back to hell, but he will return." One of the children asked if there was a way to keep Krampus from coming back, and Nicholas replied, "The best thing for you children to do is to follow the ways of God and to never fall prey to your sins." Trust in the light in your hearts, for they will protect you from evil, including Krampus. Do you all understand this? The children nodded and swore to always do good. Later on, with his mission completed, Nicholas rode on his horse and went on his way. But then, he had a thought. If Krampus was to come back just as he said, then surely all the children from around the world would be in danger should they do anything bad. It was that moment that Nicholas decided that he was not ready to return home just yet. No, instead of going home to Asia Minor, he decided to travel around the lands as much as possible to spread the words of God and to guide every child he encountered away from ill deeds for as long as he lived. Every year, around the winter solstice, Nicholas, who eventually earned every right to be called Saint Nicholas, would continuously do so as well as provide for those in need. But then, upon his deathbed, he prayed for God to allow his guidance to be the light of the winter solstice that would protect and guide the world forevermore. Not just to keep Krampus from killing any children, but to help those in need. And so, as St. Nicholas passed on, his spirit became reborn as an old angel that would appear every year to ensure that the needy were helped and that all the children continued to stay on a holy path. A tradition that recurred for many years to come on the day of winter solstice that nowadays became known as Christmas.
Yay, 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 yay! More family drama. This makes me wonder how they act during Thanksgiving. Second thought, I really don't want to know. Still, it was rather unfortunate that these brothers had met under these tough circumstances. Very unfortunate indeed. Come to think of it, there are siblings who didn't grow up with each other, or even if they did, don't even get along. But that's not the main lesson of the story. The real lesson comes from everything that St. Nicholas had done throughout his lifetime. Help those that are in need, contribute to those that don't have enough of themselves. That's something that still goes on to this day. Let me sit down to be able to explain. Much better. As I was saying, there are people around the world that don't have jobs or homes or enough food to provide for themselves and to their families. That's what Christmas is all about. Not the presents, and not to have an excuse for doing something very stupid. It's about sharing the love and care to those that don't have enough to live on. Without having the ability to do good, how can we grow as a community or as human beings with goodness in our hearts? Something for you to think about. Until then, I must take my leave. And I wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and good fortunes. And I'll see you in the next episode of Velez's Anecdotal Tales. Happy holidays, everyone.